Okay, good evening, everybody. Let me call to order the regular meeting of the Daly City Council this Monday, January 14th. Please all rise with me to say the pledge to our flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we get a roll call first?
Ms. DiGiovanni.
Here.
Ms. Manalo.
Present.
Mr. Daus McBowell.
Here.
Mr. Sylvester.
Present.
Mr. Buenaventura.
Present. Okay, so first of all, let me welcome everybody to this City Council meeting, the first of this new year. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. Hope you all had a really good holiday season. And apropos is our first presentation this evening, which is for our holiday decoration contest. And we have a lot of guests here who are the winners of our contest. And so tonight we're going to give out the awards for the Daly City 19th Annual Holiday Decoration Contest. And here to assist me will be Marion Mann, who is the coordinator, and Monica DiVincenzi from Republic Services. Will you join me? Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Oh, nice.
May I ask a question?
Very nice.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman.
Madam
This is
Marion, can you?
This is the 19th annual,
Okay.
and it's actually getting pretty easy because the homeowners associations now who participate do their own judging and then just send us the winners. So this is really a wonderfully coordinated thing. And if Monica wants to say something, she can do it, and then we can give you your stuff.
Okay.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Happy New Year.
You too.
As always, we're very happy and proud to be able to support programs like these in Daly City. It's one of the funner part of our jobs, and so we're just glad to be here and help recognize these winners.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
I know. My husband would never get around to this.
These are the right one.
Okay, so why don't we do...
Wow.
So first up is the winner from Broadmoor Village resident Casey. Casey and Janet Yost. We have Casey and Janet Yost. Okay. How about also a Broadmoor Village winner, Alvaro and Zaida Lopez. Nice. Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So much.
I love my city.
Okay, this is Maria with the Broadmoor. I didn't know the Broadmoor was giving out gifts, otherwise I would have given it.
Thank you.
All right, who's next?
Did they come in? Oh, are they here? Yes? Yes, they're here.
You can bring your family out and get a family picture. That's okay. I've been through that. Yeah, everybody here. You're a good boy, huh? Good boy.
And next we have from the Ceremony Homeowners Association also, Peter Evaristo and family. Peter Evaristo? Ah, there you go. Come on up. This is the camera. All right, let's take a picture. Come on, let's take a picture together. Okay, congratulations. And now we have the Garcia family with also the Southern Hills Homeowners Association. The Garcia family? No? Okay. Next we have Irma Noguera, their family with the St. Francis Heights Homeowners Association. Irma? Oh? Oh. Sorry, we'll get that corrected. Sorry. All right. Okay, then we have the Noodleman family, Skyline Palisades Homeowners Association. Do we have the Noodleman family? Come on up. Hey, congratulations. Congratulations.
Yay! That's not the picture.
Okay, we have the Kenia family. Parker Homeowners Association, the Kenia family? No? And next we have the Navarro family with the Revilla Court residents. Navarro. And now we have the Torah family, Westlake residents. Torah? No? Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay, come on up. Congratulations. Nice to meet you.
Mayor?
All right, thank you. And then we have Paul and Sylvia Jimenez with the original Daly City Protection Association. No? Okay, you'll take it on their behalf. All right, and then the last one we have is the Mooney family with Hillside Homeowners Association. Mooney family? Yeah, what a nice sweater.
Wait, Mom has to take a picture.
Great sweater. Oh, that's all right. That's not so much to put it back in.
Yep, flip it. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody who won and who took the time to display their wonderful houses and decorations. It really made for a lively city, and we really appreciate that you went out of your way to do that. And I hope you come back again next year, and we'll have another successful award ceremony. So thank you very much, everybody. All right, now let's go on to the next presentation, which is the Green Infrastructure Plan Update. Appearing is Matthew Fabry, which is the San Mateo Countywide Water Pollution Prevention Program. Mr. Fabry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thanks for having me this evening. I was asked by your staff if I could come and give a presentation on something a little bit different, green infrastructure plans. I thought for sure all these people were here to see my presentation tonight. So I work for the City County Association of Governments, or CCAG, and one of the programs that CCAG administers is the Countywide Water Pollution Prevention Program, or more commonly the Countywide Stormwater Program. So we work with all the 20 cities in the county to help all of you comply with regulations to keep pollution out of stormwater runoff and protect the bay and the ocean. So we're going to talk about one of those requirements today, which is green infrastructure planning. So there's a permit that's issued by the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board, which is a state agency. It's called the Municipal Regional Stormwater Permit. It's issued to 76 agencies throughout the Bay Area, but it covers every one of the agencies in San Mateo County. We have all 20 cities plus the county flood control district are permittees under the permit. And it's a huge thick permit, and it includes everything you can imagine in terms of stormwater pollution. And one of the important features of the permit that came out with this current version of the permit is a requirement for all the permittees to develop green infrastructure plans. So what is green infrastructure? First, it helps to kind of think back to the way things were before development occurred, where we had natural environments where when it would rain, you'd get most of the water would soak into the ground, be taken up by plants, and the plants would then respire that water vapor back into the atmosphere, and you'd have the continuous water cycle. And then we came in and did a bunch of paving and built buildings, and so we've changed the natural system so that we get much more of our runoff goes directly from our impervious hard surfaces into our underground piping systems, and then flows directly out to our creeks or to the bay or to the ocean without any form of treatment. And we get much less water into the ground, much less being taken up by plants and getting into the atmosphere through that mechanism. So what we're trying to see if we can do is come up with a more balanced approach where we know we're not going to go back to the natural conditions, but if we can come up with something where we get much more water into the ground, get more green features, trees and vegetation into the environment that can help take that water up and reduce the amount of direct flow that we have and the pollutants that are going out into our water bodies. So when we talk about the different types of stormwater projects and green infrastructure, we tend to categorize them into 3 different levels. One is regional projects, which is projects that are large-scale projects that are capturing runoff from an entire watershed or an entire city, a large area. These are large underground type projects that would be underneath a park or underneath a school. Green streets is where you're managing runoff at more of the street scale or the block scale, where you're putting features into public rights of way that capture and manage the runoff that's flowing down a street before it goes into the underground piping system. And then low impact development is where we're managing runoff at a parcel scale, where you're managing the runoff that falls onto your particular property before it runs off of that property into the storm drain system. So I thought I'd show some examples of some of these types of projects so you can see what we're talking about. Some of these are actual projects here in Daly City. One of the projects that we funded quite a few years ago, one of our first demonstration projects was done by Daly City at your Serramonte Library. You've got a series of rain gardens that are out in front of that library that manage the runoff from the parking lot. There's an example of a curb extension that's in the public right-of-way in the city of Burlingame that manages runoff from the roadway. This is another rain garden here as part of your John Daly Boulevard improvement project that captures the runoff from John Daly Boulevard. And all these systems are natural systems where the runoff flows into these systems and then soaks into the ground and is treated by soaking into the ground by filtering out the pollutants. It helps to water the plants. It helps to recharge groundwater. And if it can't all soak into the ground, sometimes there's an under drain that collects the clean water and then sends that water back into the storm drain system. You've got this an example at Serramonte Mall. This is an example of a private development implementation of a rain garden in the parking lot at Serramonte Mall. There's an example of a rain garden that was put in as another demonstration project that we funded at Brisbane City Hall that manages the runoff from their City Hall roof and the parking lot. Then this is an example, the same one I showed earlier on Carolyn Avenue in Burlingame. This is an example of how these features can be integrated with other improvements such as complete streets improvements that are for bike and pedestrian improvements. So this is what it used to look like, and this is what they did now, where they've got these stormwater curb extensions integrated with crosswalks, so you're narrowing the crossing distance and managing stormwater runoff at the same time. So this is an example of a large regional retention system that's being planned and designed right now in the city of South San Francisco. And so Daly City is contributing runoff into Colma Creek Channel that will be captured by this facility. So this is an example of the much larger regional scale type projects. This is at Orange Memorial Park, where they'd be putting one of these concrete vault type systems underneath one of their playing fields there to capture and treat runoff that is coming down Colma Creek. So when we get to the requirement and the permit, what the permit says is that you have to develop these plans, and the plans have to include all these different things. So you have to identify projects that will be done, you have to prioritize projects, you have to track projects that are done, you have to do mapping of where these things are going to happen, talking about, where are the priority locations to do it, what are the timeframes in which it needs to be done. You have to develop targets for how much impervious surface is going to have to be retrofit over time. You have to include design guidelines and specifications for how to do these types of projects. You have to make sure that green infrastructure is integrated with your other planning efforts, so your things like your general plans and specific plans and bike and pedestrian plans or complete streets plans. They have to talk about green infrastructure and how green infrastructure can be integrated with the other things that the cities are doing. We have to look at funding options for how we're going to pay for all this, and we have to do outreach and education, such as what I'm doing right now in terms of trying to get folks up to speed on what all this means. So the bottom line is that Daly City, along with all the other permittees, has to submit your final green infrastructure plan to the Water Board in September of 2019. And you have to design this plan to help reduce pollutants to San Francisco Bay and reduce those pollutants by 2040. And these pollutants that we're talking about are primarily PCBs and mercury, as well as trash and litter. And PCBs and mercury are identified as causing impairments in San Francisco Bay, where they're making it so fish that are caught from San Francisco Bay are not safe to be eaten because of the accumulation of these pollutants. And so these plans have to be developed, and they have to be designed so that collectively we are all reducing the amount of mercury and PCBs that are getting out into the bay, so that eventually we get to the point where the fish are safe to be caught and eaten from the bay. So in terms of progress to date, your city staff are collaborating with CCAG at the countywide level to develop your plan. We're doing a lot of work at CCAG to support all of you in terms of the products that need to be developed for a plan. We're doing modeling to figure out how much green infrastructure is needed to reduce those pollutants that we talked about and where it needs to be done most cost effectively to achieve the Water Board's mandates for mercury and PCB improvement. We're developing a lot of resource documents to support you. And as I mentioned, the plan is going to be due at the end of September 2019. This is just an example of some of the preliminary modeling that we're doing at CCAG. I won't get into the details, but all those colors on that graph are showing the different types of green infrastructure that we talked about between regional projects, green streets, and on-site parcel-based stormwater features, and showing how much needs to be done where in the map in terms of sort of a heat map of where it makes the most sense. Daly City is a little bit interesting because you guys discharge your stormwater runoff both to the ocean and to the bay, and those pollutant issues I talked about are bay-specific pollutants. So you still have to do a plan, and you have to talk about how you're going to deal with the bayside issues, but Daly City is also going to have to talk about how you're going to do green infrastructure in all parts of the city. This is just an example of some of the resource documents that we're developing that shows how, for example, this is an example of guidance for residential properties of how you can incorporate green infrastructure onto a residential property to help manage the runoff, in this case, runoff from the roof or the driveway. So we're developing these documents that show how to do green infrastructure on all types of projects, from residential to commercial to schools to institutional facilities, as well as design guidelines and details. So in terms of next steps, your staff will continue participating in our Green Infrastructure Committee, where we're working on all of this at a countywide level. We're going at CCAG, we're going to finalize our modeling and resource documents within the next couple months. And then your staff is going to be, I believe, contracting with a consultant to help you develop your green infrastructure plan and take the resources that we're developing and make it Daly City specific. And then they'll be bringing that back to you sometime this summer for your adoption for submittal at the end of September. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions or refer to your staff if there are ones that I can't answer.
All right, any questions? Yes, council member.
How often does this green infrastructure plan get updated? I mean,
Well, the
what's the
permits,
cycle?
yeah, the permits are issued for 5-year terms, and so it's likely that we're going to be looking at all of this probably on a 5-year cycle, so that every time the permit gets reissued, there's going to be likely a requirement from the Water Board that we have to do some sort of evaluation and reprioritization and re-looking at things. So I don't expect that we'd have to look at this more than every 5 years. It could possibly be longer than that, but most likely some of the modeling that we're going to do is going to have to probably be updated once every permit term so that we can show here's what we projected to happen between now and those next 5 years, and here's what actually happened, and here's our recalibration for what needs to happen for the remaining years out to 2040 in terms of these pollutant load reductions.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I had a question when you, the slide that you listed on there, the need to reduce the amount of trash and litter. What encompasses the definition of trash and litter? Does that include plastic and any other material that's harmful to the environment?
Yeah, basically these requirements, I didn't really mention it, the plan that you have to do has to be specific to showing how we're going to reduce mercury and PCBs, but these facilities are also beneficial in terms of reducing trash and litter, and there are separate requirements in the permit that say that all cities have to basically eliminate the discharge of trash from your storm drain systems by 2022. So we're already at the point where most jurisdictions have to have achieved, I believe, 70% reduction of trash, so I think Daly City is there already. In terms of your trash load reduction. I think Daly City is doing very, very well because you have a very aggressive street sweeping schedule compared to a lot of the other jurisdictions. But so it would basically be all sort of non-man-made things that are, trash and litter, physical things that would be considered trash. So it includes plastics, it includes, wrappers, straws, garbage, and it's a challenging issue to deal with. It's sort of social management through a stormwater permit, but it's basically trying to eliminate the discharge of that stuff from the storm drain system. So part of the way people are doing it is putting filtering devices into your storm drain system so that the trash goes into your catch basins, gets filtered out by a screen, and then your staff comes back and then cleans that out. So you may still see trash out in the urban environment, but if you have these filtering systems, it's theoretically preventing it from then getting out of your storm drain system out into the creeks and out into the bay, into the ocean.
I see.
And these things are very good at collecting trash, but the problem is it collects it, and then you have to, it's part of the maintenance of these green infrastructures that you have to get out there and clean them out. And so these things, it's definitely, I want to make it clear that the city has, a commitment to develop this plan, but there's also an implementation commitment that goes along with it in terms of things are going to have to be built. We're going to have to deal with how we're going to pay for this. There's no funding for stormwater, and you're also going to have to deal with the long-term operations and maintenance burden, which is challenging because it does require landscape maintenance as well as things like going in and cleaning out trash. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you for presentation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Very informative.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to Park and Open Space Master Plan Project Update with Melanie O'Sullivan, Gates and Associates.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for having me. My name is Melanie. I'm with Gates and Associates. We are the landscape architect, urban planners, and designers hired by the city to work with you guys and your staff to develop a parks and open space master plan. The purpose of this meeting is to kind of bring you guys up to date, review progress on what we've done so far on the parks and open space master plan, and then receive any input you guys may have on how far we've come or what we've done. Little context, your Daly City General Plan resource management goal is to ensure the enhancement and preservation of existing resources by effectively managing their development and conservation and providing adequate recreational open space for future generations. Furthermore, policy RME 12 encourages a diverse, equitable, and integrated system of park facilities throughout Daly City that are accessible to all ages, social and economic groups, and all geographic areas within the city. Specifically, it lists improving Muscle Rock Park and then requiring park dedication in lieu fees. Just in case you guys need a little number there, currently there are over 800 units planned for entitlement process within Daly City and over 1,500 more contemplated. Ooh. I missed one. Okay, so the purpose of our project, the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, is to assess the conditions of Daly City's 28 existing parks and open spaces, which, by the way, was news to everyone we talked to in the public. So you guys have 28 awesome parks and open spaces that are, waiting to be used. Engage the community for meaningful input, create a roadmap to then guide the future improvements to Daly City's parks and open spaces. The master plan document itself we will be building lists the existing conditions assessment, like I said, the 28 parks and open spaces, includes demographics and trends, community outreach process and input, community needs assessment, identifies goals, policies, standards, and a vision. We then develop recommendations and create an action plan for you guys to implement. What we've done thus far. So we've inventoried and are completing an ongoing assessment of the parks. That includes talking to your maintenance staff, users, going to all 28 parks, measuring, quantifying, assessing. Demographics and trends. We have created a community engagement plan. We've had 2 advisory community meetings. One is scheduled, our third is scheduled in the next month. We have completed a statistically valid phone survey, which takes like thousands of phone calls to get 405 responses to make it statistically valid. We've had 6 community pop-up events all over the city. We have had an online interactive map and online survey that was open at the same time we were doing the pop-up community events. A little bit about your demographics here. So you're one of the most densely populated cities in California. 14,000 residents per square mile compared to San Mateo County that has 1,000. Your population has grown 6.7% since 2010. So you have an increasing population of 65 and over. You have a decreasing population of under 20, but you have over 4,000 grandparents that live in a household with grandchildren under the age of 18. And a lot of the community responses we received really kind of showcased that multi-generational living. For the community input portion, we have 3 rounds. Round 1 and 2 have been completed. So round 1, really, what is your vision for your parks? Big picture, what do you want, what do you like, what do you don't like, what you already have. Round 2, confirm, clarify, and prioritize. So we'll get a little bit into this, kind of a little deeper dive onto specifics. And then round 3, which will come in the next couple months, does the draft plan reflect the vision? Here's the schedule. You can see the dates on which we completed round 1, started in August, and then through September, and then finally our final event in December at the Bayshore Elementary School. These were all pop-up events. We had boards, dots, comment cards, all kinds of fun things to draw people in and get the community's input. While all of these events were going on, we had the online survey and map also open so people could go online, fill out the comment cards, and give their input. So how did we get the word out? Social media platforms, Stephen over here can tell you, we were real big on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, school newsletters, HOA newsletters, libraries, community centers, senior centers, child development centers, recreation center. We put signs in the parks, we had newsletters, and we used your newspapers. Really the key to something like this and getting community input is getting the word out and getting people, jazzed and excited and involved. So for the round 1, we had 1 booth at 3 events, over 600 participants, which is huge. The big trends on what we got on what do they like, trails and pathways, playgrounds, barbecue areas, open spaces, basketball picnic areas. What should we add? More or updated playgrounds, more community resource or events, restrooms, exercise stations, community gardens, pump track was pretty big, better park lighting. The phone survey, so like I touched on before, over, thousands of phone calls were made to get 405 participants. You can see the breakdown in ethnicity and then the sample size and what would you improve or what would improve satisfaction. Kind of the top 5 hits were lighting and safety, more amenities, more restrooms, better picnic areas, more picnic barbecue areas, and more play areas. For community input round 2, 3 booths and the online surveys. So we had over 250 booth participants. We had over 142 responses on the online survey. And then the interactive survey part, we had 84 responses, which is great. Like I said, the more info we can get from as many members as possible is great. And this was a bit of a deeper dive, so I can tell you, we really drilled in on what most important playground improvements could we make. So specifically to playgrounds, they want more updated playgrounds, challenges for all ages, unique play features, all abilities access, which is a huge hot topic buzzword across all of the Bay Area and everywhere right now. Nearby activities for adults. We also asked, what are your priorities for safety and maintenance, which was another, kind of hard-hitting topic on the first round. Upgrade to restrooms, better lighting, fenced off or leashed dog area, repair surfaces, and then trash removal. And then what do our parks need for gathering events? So group picnics and events were really high on the list. So picnic shelters for sun and wind protection, community festivals, movies in the park, holiday celebrations, concerts, and dance. The next steps. So up next as we draft recommendations, we'll develop a prioritization schedule. We will have an administrative draft of the master plan with short, medium, and long-term project recommendations, a cost analysis and recommendation review, draft parks and open space master plan, and then review and approval. That was real quick, so any
Great,
questions?
yes. Any questions? Question, go ahead.
Question, are there any open spaces or like walls for like murals
Absolutely.
that represent the diverse identities of Daly City?
Yeah, I think there's some great opportunities for that. I think art came up on a lot of the responses, and people like art, and it's a real easy way to cover a wall, right? Selfie walls are really big right now. I mean, just things like that would be really easy to even get a local artist and just implement.
Oh, good, great, okay.
Just
Mr.
one.
Giovanni, go ahead.
Yeah, first, thank you very much. It's really exciting. Actually, you were saying that like the all abilities access. Yes, because I saw things recently on, like there's a wheelchair swing for children that are physically challenged, and that when I go and ride around parks, it's very sad to see that some of them don't have that access. So that's really exciting to give all the children access as well as adults, you know, that also have challenges as well. So I really appreciate all the input. I saw you out there at the community events. You guys were doing the hard work, and Stephen and everyone. So thank you very much for it. It's a really exciting opportunity, and looking forward to it.
It's great to see the public participation
It was
has
great.
been like phenomenal.
Yeah, the children putting their little notes and doing their own thoughts, which I thought that was very creative.
And the public is super excited to see, you know, these parks kind of, you know, go to the next level, and they're excited to use them. So
Yeah,
that's,
people
that's
are
really great to see.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You have to fill out a speaker card if you wanted to. So you want to make a comment on this?
Yes, if I could.
Yeah. Well, let me first, were you done with your
I am.
presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was
Thank you.
wonderful. Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Actually, the question was going to be for the, regarding the,
Go ahead.
the question was going to be regarding.
No, wait till you get up. Go ahead.
Regarding the master plan, because as Daly City residents, we're aware of the, our weather is cold on the cold side.
yeah.
So if we're going to implement something in the parks or for public recreation, it should be in a more active way, like jogging areas, like maybe exercise points in between when people are exercising. Because if we have only like picnic areas and open areas where it's cold, I don't think they're going to be much of much use. That was going to be my comment. So if I want to see, I work in Oakland, but I live in Daly City. And I know how Oakland improved the Lake Merritt area. And it's the jewel of Oakland right now. Do we have anything like that in Daly City? Can young people go and run around the lake or around a park or a green area the way Lake Merced or the way Lake Merritt is? I don't think we have anything like that here. If I want to go jogging, the only area that I see is in Geller Park by the library. I don't see any other area.
Okay,
Well, at least
thank
I'm
you
aware.
very much for your comment, and hopefully you can also share that with her, and I'm sure she's listening, and
I'll fill it out.
no problem, yeah, you just fill it out and just submit it to him. Okay, any other questions? If not, again, thank you for a presentation. It was wonderful, very informative, and looking forward to the next report. All right, let's move on to approval of the minutes of December 10th. Can I get a motion to approve those previous minutes?
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. Let me go on to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Just the agenda, we'll do the consent
So
after.
moved.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, got it. Okay.
Okay, so I got a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the approval of agenda is done. Let's go on to the consent agenda. Any council want to pull any of the items on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I'd like to pull items number 1,
Uh-huh.
item number 9, item number 11, And I'd like to defer to our interim city manager between the items of 7 through 12. Is there any other items I should pull? Other than items number 9 and 11?
No, those are the two that are present.
Thank you, Madam Interim City Manager. And that's all I have, Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Giovanni?
Yes, I would like to pull items 2, 3, 4, and 5, and only so that these are positive items, and if the mayor himself would like to make a comment on those, to let the people know, that would be great.
All right, so we're pulling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, and 11. Any other items need to be pulled? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the rest of the items?
So moved.
All in favor? All right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now let's go in order to item number 1 of the consent agenda, which is approve a purchase agreement with Syntex Systems for a fuel management software system.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pulled this item because I noticed on the staff report under discussion, it said staff researched several alternative fuel management systems, but they didn't say whether we went out for bid, whether it was more cost effective, or who was contacted.
So, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and Councilmember Sylvester.
Yes.
We did reach out to a couple of different providers. One of them is Gas Boy, and one is Fuel Masters. There was one that was not very responsive in regards to our request. We also did check in regards to Fuel Masters in regards to other agencies that have utilized the services. The references have all come back very positive. In regards to looking at the advantages of the system, Fuel Master does allow us the ability to also connect our fire stations, in addition to the corporation yard as well as the water treatment plant. The proposal before you includes the wireless connections and all the hardware to be able to monitor the fire stations. Fuel Master, the contract is part of a National Joint Powers Authority in which they go through the public process in terms of putting the notice out to all vendors that are interested. They go through a process, and Fuel Master is one that has been approved under this joint powers agreement. And so Daly City has the ability through Sourcewell to purchase Fuel Masters under that National Joint Powers Authority.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that we're offering equal opportunity for all vendors in the way of the form of a bid. And of course, being in the position we are now, that we obtain a system to which would meet all of our needs and in some ways excel. And it appears to me that what you've selected definitely does meet what Daly City needs now and for in the future. But just as a point of reference, it would have been nice to have that information, so I would not have had to ask you.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
One of the main features is the expandability, and that's
absolutely. Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
You want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 1.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that item is passed. Let's go on to number 2, which is the amend the traffic regulations to extend the existing no parking zone, red zone along the south curb of South Mayfair, west of Windsor Drive by 20 feet to the west.
Mr. Chu.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. Go ahead, if you don't mind, so the public can hear that at least a resident that expressed something, got something done. And thank you.
Yes, thank you. There was a request for a red zone at the southwest corner of South Mayfair at Windsor Drive. Staff took a look at it and also brought it up to the Traffic Safety Committee for review. In this particular situation, staff felt, and the committee also felt that the installation of a red zone would improve the sight distance for the pedestrian crossing. and as a result is recommending that the additional red zone be placed at the south curb of South Mayfair, west of Windsor Drive, and to do that in a 20-foot segment there.
For taking action with our residents' concern.
Make a motion?
Make a motion to approve item number 2.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chu?
Item number 3, which is the appointment of the Daly City Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee members. Mr. Giovanni, did you ask for that item?
Yeah, I asked for that item because it's really exciting that we've had some qualified people. Mr. Chu is on this committee, and if he'll just explain about the committee, and this is really exciting that we have a lot of qualified people, actually pretty highly qualified for this committee.
Yes, so the Daly City Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, they meet quarterly. It's a committee in which we review grant applications, we review projects that primarily involve bicycle and pedestrian facilities. They also help in terms of indicating their support for potential grant applications. In this preparation of this report, at the time there were 2 vacancies and 3 applications. So the staff report did recommend 2 of the applicants to be appointed. However, subsequent to the preparation of this staff report, there was an additional member that resigned from the committee. And so staff is now revising our recommendation for City Council to appoint all 3 applicants as of, because there's 3 positions now. So staff is recommending in regards to Alan being appointed to the term expiring June 30th, 2020, Melinda Hugh to the term expiring June 30th, 2019, and then also for Rachel Goodman to also be appointed to the term expiring June 30th, 2020. The way this works is there's half the committee expires on an even number year, and half the committee expires on an odd number year. And so for that reason, there's some expiring in 2019, some expiring in 2020.
Thank you.
Motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make also a comment. Mr. Chu, I'd like to thank you for facilitating this committee. For those folks out there in Daly City, I remember I've gotten some calls, whether those green boxes on the street. And then a week or 2 later, then you got the insignia in the boxes and they're bicycle pedestrian. And this would not have been possible if not only for you, but also for the rest of staff and resources and grant funding and et cetera to move Daly City about in the future for alternate forms of transit. Even though I need to get on a bicycle, if I did, I'm glad I'll use one of those on the electric one. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the work you've been doing with this committee, and if you can relay my thanks to them as well. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this item's approved.
This is Mr.
Number
Chu.
4, notice of completion for the John Daly Boulevard Bridge.
It's Mr. Chu again.
It's your fault.
I just want to say that all the staff works very hard, and then this just tells you what great things are happening and that they listen to the residents. Mr. Chu, thank you.
Yes, so item number 4 is the completion of the John Daly Bridge Light Street Replacement Project. This is a project that we've been working on for quite some time. It's a project in which the existing lights have deteriorated in this corrosive environment. There was a period of time where we actually had to remove a lot of fixtures for safety reasons. So council did approve the purchase of new lights. We purchased the new lights. This item is before you to approve the installation. We put a contract out for contractors to install government furnished items. This is primarily due to the long lead time it takes to purchase the lights. So we purchased them first, we got them in stock, and then we reached out to contractors, various contractors to install them. So they're done now. The lights are all installed, they're all operational. It actually involves some closure of the freeway at nighttime to be able to do this work. But it's done now, and staff is requesting that that contract be accepted for city maintenance.
Great.
Great.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Manalo.
I just want to say thank you for your work on this. Also, that to let the audience know that these were LED lights, and that it's just very important that we're also looking at longevity and also
Saving money.
and yeah, exactly. So saving and electricity wise. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Any other comments? If not, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion to approve. We got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Hearing none, that item is approved. All right, number 5, which is the notice of completion for the Alta Loma Tot Lot renovation project.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chu, again, because this will be an announcement for ribbon cutting.
Yes, the Alta Loma Tot Lot, some of you may remember that was a project in which we seek grant funding for. We were successful in getting some grant funding. It didn't cover everything, but it helped pay for it. We went out we did the design in-house. We got help from in-house staff and city manager's office. We all chipped in to try to save costs in terms of design, which we did. And then we got a contractor in there. The contractor did a good job. They finished the project in about three months. They finished basically ahead of schedule. There was one change order for like $1,000 to add some additional fencing, but other than that, everything went smoothly. So it's done now. We're requesting that that project be accepted so that we can record the notice of completion. And then as Councilmember Di Giovanni mentioned, there is a ribbon cutting scheduled for the 25th of this month.
At 2 p.m., correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, can I get a motion to approve that resolution?
Move to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Hearing none, that resolution is also approved. Let's go on to item number 9, which is commending Lee Magalon on the occasion of his retirement. Mr. Sylvester.
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor. At this particular time, I would like to defer to you to offer a resolution to Officer Lee Magalong for his retirement.
Sure. Officer Magalong, would you kindly step up?
You got to read the...
Yeah. Just have a... stand right there for a minute. I want to say something briefly before I come down.
Yes.
So, Officer Magalong has been with Daly City for many, many years. And I think it's 27 years, right? When I first came on the council, one of the things we did was we had an orientation, and Officer Magalong was one of the first to ever greet me at the station. And he had a command of the station and the knowledge of the police officers. And I was so impressed, and I felt so welcome in what you did, what you did, and how you presented yourself. And I have since gotten to know you and all the good things you've done for Daly City. And you will be really missed. I mean, you were a community person from the beginning. You always will be, I believe. And for that, I want to congratulate you on a successful career with Daly City. We're going to miss you. Your presence has been felt, and you were truly a remarkable police officer. So thank you, Officer Michael.
Thank you, Mayor.
So we have this resolution, which is a resolution commending Lee Magalong on the occasion of his retirement. He has been...
Microphone, Mayor, so people can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
the microphone.
Yeah.
Or turn that one on.
Again, as I said earlier, he's been with the Daly City Police for 27 years. He was a graduate of St. Patrick's High School in Vallejo, attended Solano Junior College before accepting a position as a Daly City police officer. He has accomplished a tremendous amount here in Daly City, including patrol officer, field training officer, bicycle patrol officer, community policing unit. He's been instrumental in the Cops and Kids program. He was also instrumental in the Every 15 Minutes program, which is a program I'm familiar with because I participated in that with you, teaching our high school students of the dangers of drinking and driving. He was also impactful in the Explorer Advisor program, providing leadership and guidance to hundreds of young people. And he was also pivotal in the programs relating to gang awareness, bullying, and family intervention. He has received over 180 commendations from unit commendations and letters of thanks from his supervisors and members of his community. In particular, the highlights of his career are that he received a commendation in 1994 for coming to the aid of police officers who were in a burning building and exchanging gunfire with an armed suspect. The suspect was subdued and taken into custody. In 1996, he received a commendation for spotting a vehicle matching the description of a homicide vehicle out of San Francisco. He was able to take the suspect into custody after pursuit and located the weapon used in the homicide in the vehicle. In 1997, he received a commendation for his tenacity and investigative skills in solving 2 residential burglaries in Daly City. And in 2007, as I said, he participated and received a commendation for his work at the every 15 minutes program at Westmore. And finally, this resolution states that whereas in a 27-year career, Lee leaves a legacy of commitment, hard work, and innovation. He's earned the respect of those in the Daly City Police Department, the Daly City community, and many others that he interacted with. He's provided mentoring and guidance to the youth of Daly City while supporting the mission of our local educators. His impact will be felt for many years to come. Officer Magalon, congratulations, and thank you for your service to the community.
Stand right here. I just wanted to thank the mayor. I want to thank all the city council members and all the officers, staff in Daly City Police Department. I want to thank them for their support over the years. I couldn't have gotten this far without some help, and I had a lot of help and guidance along the way. I want to thank my family who's here, who's supported me over the years, and I just appreciate everything the city has done for me, and I think I've had a great career, and I'm very happy. A lot happier now that I'm not having to wake up and come to work anymore, which is pretty fun. The baby wakes me up in the morning. So that's all I have, and thank you very much. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Congratulations again. Let's move on to item number 11, which is the commendation on the retirement of Joseph Bocci III on the occasion of his retirement. Mr. Bocci, come on, would you step up forward? Mr. Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, at this time, I'd like to defer to you to provide a resolution of retirement for Mr. Bocci.
All right, so before I do that, let me just say that I met Officer Bocci in the courts. Him and I used to battle it out quite extensively, actually, when I was first became a defense attorney in San Mateo County. And out of that battle, I think developed a mutual respect for the work that you do and the tenacity, the diligence, and the sheer professionalism that you have exhibited in your role as a police officer, especially when it came to the specialty crimes unit that you were so involved in. I learned a lot from you. I thought that you had a lot to give Daly City, and you gave it your all, and the result of which was a lot of successful apprehension of the people that, in particular, that were committing identity theft, because you were a master at that. And I know that you were an expert at it, and you solved a lot of crimes and gave a lot of people some peace. So with that, let me bring forward the resolution to you. And all right, so this is a resolution commending Joseph Bocci III on the occasion of his retirement. Mr. Bocci has been a Daly City police officer for over 28 years, attended Sarah High School, and later graduated from the University of Nevada, Reno with a major in criminal justice. He began his career with the Daly City Department after serving at the Academy, the Butte Community College in Oroville. He was sworn in as a patrol officer in 1990. He was involved in various specialty assignments throughout his career, including field training officer, field evidence technician, and detective. In 2007, he was assigned senior detective, specializing in property and fiduciary crimes. Over the course of his career, he received 42 commendations from supervisors and 29 letters of recognition for the community and other outside agencies. A few highlights of his career is in 1993, he responded to an armed robbery in the Mission Terrace and Templeton Avenue area, located the suspect and apprehended him after a foot chase. He also located the victim's property under adverse weather conditions. In 1994, he responded to a domestic violence report where during the investigation, the suspect became irate and armed himself with a knife. He was able to safely disarm the suspect without using deadly force. In 1998, he responded to an armed robbery at the Town and Country Billiards. Although the suspect was not identified, Joseph developed an informant that led to the identity of the suspect and arrest. In 2004, he assisted patrol officers in the investigation of a serial burglar operating in the Westlake Village Apartments. Over the course of the investigation, a suspect was identified and 10 residential burglaries were solved. Over a 28 career, Joseph leaves a legacy of commitment, hard work, and innovation. Joseph has earned the respect of those in Daly City Police Department, the Daly City community, and many others he interacted with. Congratulations, Detective.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you so much. Thank you to the current administrative staff, admin staff of our department, Chief Hensley, and here is Captain Christensen, and pretty much every chief and command officer and lieutenant sergeants that I've worked under. Thank you for the accolade. We had a good run. I parlayed that into a job I started last week. Doing identity theft as an investigator and money laundering for Wells Fargo Bank.
Oh, okay.
So the only bad thing is I have to commute, but outside, longer than I have to do now. So my expertise helped me in my second chapter of my life. I want to thank my beautiful wife who's not here tonight. She is a civic cultural commissioner for the city of Redwood City. And when you know it, they have their council meeting tonight and she has to do a presentation on some funding. So she's very used to this format. I'm not. I'm usually in the back. So anyway, thank you to you folks. Thank you to the Daly City Police Department, everybody I've ever worked for, under, and citizens of Daly City.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bocci, where you going? Would you come on up for a second? Officer Magalon, why don't you come on up and join him, please? You know, as I'm hearing the mayor read both resolutions on the both of you, I first want to start off, and you knew this when you first joined Daly City Police Department, that it's an honorable profession. And where most folks run away from something, you guys, gals, run towards the crime. You've definitely heard that. It's funny that the mayor should relate to you that he's running to you, I guess, as an attorney representing someone in court. because you know what? He said the same thing to me. He says, you don't remember, but you were a police officer. You were in my courtroom.
That's right.
And I'm thinking, I don't remember. But anyway, just the same, that goes to show that you both were out there, you were doing what you had to do, and believe me, there is so much that you can do afterwards. Congratulations to you, sir, on taking your skills and working for Wells Fargo. I remember as a police officer, I used to work for Wells Fargo a long time ago, and in 1999, I created the identity theft program for Post, and it's just so much. Officer Mangalon, I've seen you all around the schools, what you've done for the kids. There's so much to do in police work, and I'd like to congratulate the both of you. Good luck in the future, and you, well, I hate to say this, but you made it out just in time, but thank you for everything that you've done, and it's very well appreciated, part of Daly City's finest. You ought to be, both of you ought to be commended for the service you have provided. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Giovanni, go ahead.
officers?
Hold on.
Well, mine is very short. I won't hold you very long. I know you're ready for that retirement. But I just want to say that our officers here tonight and the other gentleman that retired, they always just like to leave and not to let us know they're leaving. So I want to say to the unknown officer, and he knows who he is, to letting me know so I can tell our vice mayor and to get this rolling, because you can't just leave without us knowing and commending you, because without your safety and protecting our community and everything you do is just unmeasurable. And to your family, who's always there to support us, they serve too. So we know that in blue, your family serves and all you serve. So thank you so much. And you couldn't just sneak away. And that goes for all the officers who are thinking of leaving, and you're not going to be coming in front of the council. So, but thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We have one more.
One last one. I just want to say thank you to both of you. I think when my family moved to Daly City, it was about 27, 28 years ago. So that's as long as you've been able to protect the community I've been living in. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your commitment. And congratulations on your retirement, on an amazing job keeping our city safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve this resolution? Item number 11, on Joe Bacci. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, congratulations. You can leave now. All right, now let's go on to public hearings. Item number 13, which is substantial amendment to fiscal year 2018-19 HUD Action Plan. Ms. Sobel.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Before you tonight is a request to amend the 2018-19 HUD Action Plan to provide an additional $110,000 in funding for the CDBG Housing Rehab Program. Under the city's program, low-income homeowners are eligible for technical services and low-interest loans and grants, enabling them to undertake critical repairs to their homes, including roofs, dry rot repairs, window replacements, and hot water heaters, to name just a few. So far this year, 5 loans and grants have been executed, leaving only $50,000 remaining for additional loans. We currently have a wait list of 6 eligible applicants that we cannot serve due to a lack of funds. The 2018-19 Action Plan describes CDBG funding available to the city and specific allocation of these funds to various activities. The Action Plan was adopted in April of 2018 before the exact resources available for the current fiscal year were known. In December, we confirmed unallocated funds of $123,000 and met with the CDBG Advisory Committee to discuss allocation of up to $110,000 to the Housing Rehab Program. The proposed amendment to the action plan constitutes a substantial amendment and is thus subject to specific noticing requirements. The proposed amendment was published in the newspaper and has been posted at all libraries, community centers, and on the city's website for 30 days. To date, we have not received any comments from the public on this amendment. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? All right, let me open the public hearing on this item, but we have no speaker cards, so can I get a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now the recommended action is to adopt the resolution by roll call. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Di Giovanni,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Mr. Daus McBowell,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Obel. Item 14, which is the general amendment, design review and mitigative declaration for 34,672 square feet of commercial use and 75 townhouses at 3301 Junipero Serra, previously Cerro Bowl. Mr. Von Luckheisen.
Yes, Mayor Buenaventura and members of the City Council, this is a request by City Ventures to construct the Serra Station Townhouse Project at 3301 Junipero Serra Boulevard. The entitlements are on the screen. The project site is located generally northeast of the intersection of Junipero Serra Boulevard and D Street. The City Council, some of you and may recall, and some of you who were planning commissioners will recall, this has actually come before the City Council back in March of 2018. The site has actually been revised in terms of its scope and now includes not for development, but for amendment to the general plan, the right-of-way of B Street north of what's called the small triangle, which is no longer a portion of the project site. We'll, of course, go through that. It's pictures of the subject site, of course, Cerro Bowl. So since March of 2018, the City Council had table consideration of the project at their second meeting in March, citing the adequacy of the traffic study prepared for the project, the number of affordable units within the project, the lack of a community space within the project, as well as to address concerns raised by City Toyota regarding the compatibility of the existing automobile dealership that exists across B Street from the project site. The City Council appointed a council committee which convened twice in April and in August to discuss the project site plan. And as an outcome of those committee meetings, City Ventures and City Toyota reached a site plan agreement in November 2018 on a site plan that would essentially address City Toyota's concern regarding the compatibility of the existing automobile dealership and the proposed residential use. This is a photo of the proximity of City Toyota to the project site. This is looking northwest from Hill Street. And the small triangle in the foreground is the portion of the project that was removed from the project site plan the City Council reviewed in March of 2018. So the revised proposal, the number of townhouses essentially stays the same, but as we'll see in the site plan, all of the townhouses were shifted from the small triangle to the large triangle, and all development was omitted in the small triangle. So there is essentially 2,300 square feet of shopkeeper commercial space that would continue to be proposed along D Street in 5 residential units. So the 31,000 square feet of retail and office space that was previously reviewed by the City Council near the intersection of Junipero Serra and D Street in a 3-story building has been completely removed. The number of parking spaces, which was previously, because there was development proposed on both triangles, used to have 110 parking spaces. There are 42 parking spaces that are now proposed. The site plan that was included in the council packet actually reflects, I believe, 69 parking spaces. But those parking spaces aren't required anymore because the parking actually for each of the residential units is satisfied within the garages of the residential units. So in addition to the 2 parking spaces that would be provided in each of the garages, there would be 42 uncovered parking spaces. The amount of private open space has been increased slightly.
as well as the common usable open space, 260 square feet per unit, well exceeding the city's standard of 150. So these are the numbers in terms of the revised project. So in March of 2018, the council reviewed this site plan, which identified the 30,000 square feet of retail and office near the intersection of D Street and Junipero Serra. And the residential townhouse project was segmented into the small triangle and the balance of the large triangle. There was an EVA that was proposed at that time that would have been used for some sort of open space. In the revised site plan, the small triangle is now not a part of the proposal. So all of the residential units are now located on the large triangle, and the project does not include the 30,000 square foot 3-story office building. The 5 townhouses, which would contain the shopkeeper space, remain at this location near the D and Hill Street intersection. One thing of note in the site plan is the access, which was a major issue when the previous site plan was being considered by both the Planning Commission and the City Council. At that time, there was a concern raised in part by the town of Colma that ingress and egress, that is cars entering and exiting the site at this location, could cause some traffic congestion as cars tried to leave the site and enter D Street and try to get on the freeway. There was concern that cars would block lanes of traffic heading westward. In the current site plan, cars will now only enter at this location near the intersection of Junipero Serra and D. So there would be no cars exiting at this location. So that potential vehicular conflict is removed in this site plan, which is, of course, beneficial in this site plan. Instead, cars would enter and exit at the most easterly driveway on D Street. So from a circulation standpoint, this site plan is tremendously more beneficial. No potential for traffic congestion. The median island in D Street would be modified to allow for vehicles to enter and exit at this sole location. Of course, no entrance at Junipero Serra has ever been proposed, and these would be the only site accesses. We just included this graphic to show the issue that existed in the previous proposal, where cars would try and exit onto southbound Junipero Serra or freeway bound, potentially blocking lanes of traffic here. So this issue is remedied by the currently proposed site plan. This graphic just shows the D Street ingress that would occur. This landscape median would be modified to allow for cars traveling eastbound to enter the project site approximately here. This just shows a graphic of the modification to the median island. The architectural concept the City Council reviewed in March of 2018 has not changed. It remains a contemporary design. The conditions of approval that were proposed at that time continue to be proposed. They're very minor type issues with some of the buildings, but overall very strong architecture. This graphic provides a concept sketch of what we could expect in the shopkeeper spaces. As part of what the City Council would be acting on tonight would be the amendment of the general plan in the B Street right-of-way north of the small triangle, as well as an amendment to the general plan designation north of the large triangle as well. The intention of this is that at a future council meeting, with the Planning Commission having found the vacation of B Street consistent with the city's general plan, the City Council could then vacate the portion of B Street north of the small triangle. And this is something that the city staff has agreed to undertake and support, of course. And that's essentially what all these words say is it outlines the assessor parcel numbers. Again, north of the small triangle, the amendment to the general plan would include the amending the B Street right-of-way to residential medium density. That's actually north, excuse me, of the large triangle, and where the right-of-way fronts the small triangle, the general plan would be amended to commercial mixed use, and those are the APNs that are designated. So in the council's action tonight, the council would be sort of paving the way, so to speak, for this future vacation of B Street to occur. B Street right-of-way fronting properties owned by the SFPUC would not be redesignated. And those, and the SFPUC properties fronting the SFPUC right-of-way would not be vacated either. So that's not part of anything we wouldn't be tampering with SFPUC properties or any property fronting their property, any right-of-way fronting their property. As part of the development proposal, the City Council would be amending the general plan, the existing general plan designation for this site. So now we're talking about the residential portion is designated commercial mixed use. It would be redesignated to residential medium density to allow for the proposed project. Where the shopkeeper spaces are proposed, that would remain commercial mixed use. Also part of this area, the BART station area specific plan exists, and there's some redesignations that would need to be changed there as well. For the residential portion, medium density residential redesignation, and neighborhood commercial residential above for the shopkeeper spaces. Those are shown on these graphics, which are an attachment to the council staff report. So this is the general plan amendment. This shows the previous development. Again, this is not part of the project anymore, but the right-of-way would be designated CMU. The residential portion, residential medium density, and CMU for the shopkeeper spaces. And this is the specific plan map. The affordable housing plan has been changed somewhat because some of the units that were included in the original plan were on the small triangle, and those units, which in total 8 within the project site, have been moved to the large triangle, of course. The estimated housing impact fee from March is unchanged at $1,057,000. There is a proposed community space to address the concern raised at the City Council meeting in March. And that community space is 1,050 square feet, which would occupy 2+ shopkeeper spaces, and the developer would convey city ownership of airspace ownership of that 1,050 square feet within that tenant space. The applicants proposed that that space be delivered with ADA compliant bathroom and any other code required improvements and pre-plumbed for a kitchen. City Ventures has communicated to the city staff that it may be willing to include in that tenant improvement the kitchen itself and some AV equipment that may be necessary. Exterior building maintenance would be the responsibility of the homeowners association, while interior room maintenance, including event maintenance, would be the city's responsibility. The applicant is requesting fee credits, not only for the community room, but for some of the other open space areas that exist on the site, such as the barbecue area and some other open space areas. This slide is intended to represent those fee credit requests. So the city's municipal code allows for 2 different types of requests. One is for private open space, and that's for the land occupied underneath the community room and other common open space areas, which total 0.184 acres. The applicants requested a $473,000 credit for that. The second type of request is for the actual provision of the community room. And the applicant has provided the city with a estimated value for that space, and it was $850,000. It actually ranged between $750,000 and $950,000, $750,000 and $950,000, and the staff and the applicant agreed on the median of that, which is $850,000. So when we add the $850,000 to the 473, the total requested credit is $1,323,000 off an original estimated amount of $1.841 million. If both credits were granted, the city would collect $517,000 in park and lieu fees. This is actually 28% of what was originally anticipated, not 72%. It's 28%, $517,000, 28% of the $1.8 million. Which brings us to an issue that the city staff conveyed in this council staff report concerning the amount of credit that is being requested, which sort of impacts the community room in general. The $473,000 credit request is actually fairly standard sort of thing for developers to request and receive from the city. The second credit, that is for the park and recreation improvements under number 2, is sort of a new sort of a credit that isn't normally asked for, because the city doesn't normally go to an applicant and say we would like a community room or something actually built. And so it's a new sort of credit that we've been dealing with, and in terms of the city staff has been examining the merits of this type of a request. And we have determined that it is something that we are concerned about, and that was outlined in the staff report. The cause for that concern is that the city uses the monies that we collect from park and lieu fees to pay for various improvements to city facilities. And we outlined in the staff report examples of what some of those facilities might be, and which facilities specifically might be impacted if we did not collect the $850,000, for example. So that is something that we're concerned about. Of course, the city council can deliberate and make a decision about that. These are, of course, requests by the developer, and the city council in its discretion can have a discussion with the developer or the applicant about the amount of the request, the community room in general, and of course the city staff, including planning staff, of course, Public Works, can answer any questions related to these numbers. But again, that is a concern that we do have. The city is recommending approval of the project. We'd like to mention number 4, if the community room is included in something that you'd like to see within the project site, we need to add a requirement that the plan development zoning and the conditions of approval reflect the actual construction of the community room, that it's a required thing. And we'd like to see that constructed by the time the 40th townhouse unit is constructed. We'd add a condition of approval that says that the applicant shall have submitted drawings for this improvement, and shall have not necessarily undertaken by that time, but made some sort of diligent effort toward making sure the community room is actually constructed. So it's something that we don't want to wait until the whole project is constructed to find out that there's no money left to build it or something changed. We can't have that happen. This is something that the city council would be granting a very large, substantial 6-figure credit for, and impacts other city facilities, and we need to see it built if the city council's desire is to have that. So we're throwing that out there for something for you to think about. The applicant also has a presentation on this project, and a short one, I believe, and we can get into that now, or if you have any questions, we can answer your questions.
Any questions yet, or do we want to go into the presentation?
Let's go into the presentation.
All right, let's do the presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll give it to you. Would you like this or a clicker?
That will work. Thank you.
So it's right.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice
evening.
Mayor, and City Council. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I'm Samantha Hauser from City Ventures, and looking around the room, I think I know almost everybody in here, and I think most of you know me, so I will try to be brief. This project was initially submitted to the city in March of 2016, and we've been sprinting ever since. There's been a lot of collaboration, a lot of iterations on the site plan, a couple of facelifts. Some of them were very hard. But I think with the compromises that were made and all of the work that everybody in this room collectively has put into this project, that we're presenting something to you that we can all stand behind tonight. In March 2018, as staff mentioned, we did come before you, and this council directed that we work with the neighbors to find a way to provide housing close to BART, and we're a stone's throw away from the Colma BART station, and also to be respectful of the current uses that surround our site. And over the last year, we've worked very closely with the key stakeholders to make sure that that happened. I think I specifically want to thank City Toyota, who's here tonight to speak on behalf of the project. There have been a lot of hours that have been put into this, and we really appreciate that. Another key neighbor on this project is the Colma BART station. And one of the key parts of being an urban developer, an urban infill developer, is finding ways to build close to transit. This is really a golden opportunity to get people out of their cars and into public transportation. And that's why we really worked hard to put together a walkable site. Staff really helped us with making things pedestrian friendly, and I can talk a little bit more about that. I think all of you have heard me say that City Ventures is a green developer, and I'm happy to go into the details, but to summarize, an average home that we build saves approximately 8 tons of greenhouse gases per home per year. So that's a big sustaining impact, and we think that that's something that's really responsible in the context of our climate. In addition to being a developer, we are also a builder, and one of the things I'm really proud to hear often is that our projects built look very close to the renderings that we present. And that just means that we're meeting the standards that you guys are holding us to. We'd really love the opportunity to do that here and to provide you with high quality architecture. Staff showed some images of shopkeeper projects that we've built. I'd like to show a couple more here. But we've really run the gamut of different designs and different styles. And here we worked very closely with staff on finding the right urban plan, the right zoning adjacencies to show you a project that we think will really make it work. Everyone's familiar with the current site, and one of the things that we really tried to do here was create safe passage for pedestrians. The current sidewalks are substandard. There aren't sidewalks in Junipero Serra connecting the San Tran site to the area close to San Pedro. And so this project provides separated sidewalks, a strong street wall. We really wanted to provide vibrant articulation along D Street and very much embrace the BART. The residential here truly faces and is meant to interact with the BART station and then turn its back on the SFPUC and uses to the north, which is, I believe, what you guys wanted to see happen here. So with that said, I'll kind of end on a personal note. One of the best things for me is turning over the keys. These homes are designed for family-oriented, for-sale homes. And a lot of times we see first-time home buyers who've worked really hard to get into these houses, and it really makes me happy that the opportunity is here to do this. So with that, we're here to answer any of your questions. We're asking for your approval of the general plan amendment and the other entitlements that staff presented. And we really want to thank you, and again, everyone in this room who's put so much time and effort into this project for your help and your time.
Okay, I think Ms. Manala had a question. Go ahead.
I do. First question goes along the affordable housing plan, that there was some changes, as you mentioned. And can we go over like how many units were changed prior?
So the number of units did not change.
It did not, okay.
But the locations of them did.
Okay.
And they're more, and the locations are more or less what they were before.
So that they're in the same areas?
They're in the same general areas, yes.
Okay, so then there would be 8 affordable units.
Yes.
Around 120% AMI.
That's right.
And then the rest goes into our Affordable Housing Trust Fund,
That's
the
correct.
$1,057,663.
So it's a blended approach.
Okay.
Along the same lines, before we go on to another topic, so was it 72 units total?
75.
75, and 20% of 75 is 15. So how do we get down from 15 to 8?
Well, at the time that the applicant requested essentially a blended plan, the previous city manager approved a blended affordable housing plan, essentially.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor? Yeah, may I ask the City Ventures, please? Thank you for being here. Thank you. Yeah, I have just one quick question. I know that you guys have been doing a lot of work on this. One thing I wanted to ask is that are you familiar with the prevailing wage? Are you planning on using prevailing wage or reached out to our building and trades?
We have done a lot of work in San Mateo County and around the Bay Area, and we often, or actually we always bid to union trades, and we plan on doing the same here on this project.
Good to hear. Green and union, right? Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr.
Go
Mayor.
ahead.
This community space, who would own that? The city or the folks who live within?
The city of Daly City would own the airspace, just like a condominiumized unit.
And would it be up to the city to also maintain that space?
Yes, and in fact, that's been one of the key issues we've been exploring is the maintenance costs associated with it. The maintenance costs would be solely the city's for the interior portion. The outside building would be maintained by the homeowners association. So the structure itself would be HOA maintained.
I guess, Kay, that was going to be my next question. Would there be any mechanisms for the folks who reside there through their HOA fees to pay for it? Or would they have to come through the city if they wanted to rent it like we rent any of our other facilities?
They would be renting it just like any other community member.
Okay. I'm trying to weigh the pros and cons. I mean, I would like the developer to have a community space, at least for the folks who will live there, a place to go.
Well, the applicant has actually built outdoor areas for that purpose. There are a couple of outdoor areas, and in fact, one of the things they're looking at, and one of the things highlighted in the staff report, is that they don't need as many parking spaces now that the 30,000 square feet of office is no longer being constructed. So there's opportunities for them to shift buildings around and provide additional open space areas. But in terms of open space, that's actually well covered. The amount of open space per unit far exceeds the city's usual requirement of 150 square feet. There are a couple of barbecue areas and gathering areas, but they're outdoor, open to the sky.
Okay, my concern for outdoor is like now, it's cold, it might be raining, and the folks want to come together and have either a homeowners meeting or a get-together, and outdoors probably would not cut it. I think that the developer has to provide some sort of responsibility to provide some sort of indoor community gathering area for its residents. That's just my feeling. Whether we can impose that, I don't know, but that's a concern that I have. Number two, you're asking us to vacate B Street. Can you bring up the diagram once again for me, please, on B? So where you see CMU, that would be the street that we would be giving up to this project.
No. So we're actually not requesting a vacation tonight. We're asking that the city council amend the general plan to allow for a future conformity finding, just a technicality, but just to be clear, to allow for a future vacation of B Street. And no, the plan, as the city staff understands it, is that the applicant would come into ownership of both triangles. And the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, the small triangle would be transferred to City Toyota. And the City Toyota, once having obtained ownership of the triangle, and once the vacation does occur, and the City Council at a future date does vacate it, half of the vacated area would go to the small triangle, and half, the northern half, would go to the property owner on which City Toyota's car dealership, the owner of the car dealership's land, which is not, in fact, actually City Toyota, it's another party.
And the same would apply to the bottom end as
Yes.
you have listed?
That's correct.
Okay, so my next question is, what's in it for Daly City by us vacating both those parcels?
Well, what's in it for us is, essentially the council directed in the March meeting that that the city council committee explore mechanisms for allowing the proposed development project to move forward while addressing City Toyota's concerns about compatibility. So I'm not sure if that's the answer you're looking for, but that is the answer. It's essentially something we've been given some direction to do. At least we thought that was the direction, and that's why we've pursued this. And we've committed to supporting the abandonment and processing it essentially.
Okay, that's not the answer I was looking for, but not a problem. I'll take that into submission. I feel that we all should play together. I have to commend City Ventures for all the work and City Toyota for getting together and coming up, because I remember there was stuff on that other triangle there, but I'm glad to hear that things were worked out. But I feel asking to get a credit or a fee from the city when we already have, number one, a blended plan, which we're going to reduce the amount of affordable housing. We're possibly going to vacate a street that I think more should be provided to Daly City in such a way as so that we all benefit from this. And I think we're giving more to help the situation come about, but we're not getting much. So it's just my thought.
Okay.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes, regarding Vice Mayor's concern about the community room, how many feet again, Michael? I'm sorry to ask you.
It's 1,050.
That we give up on shopkeeper space versus the community room?
It's 1,050 square feet.
And we don't have any estimate, obviously, in how much money's in retail, obviously, that we would be able to bring in.
We don't have that
it's
handy.
hard, yeah.
No,
It's hard to
it's
project.
true that the 1,050 square feet would not be occupied by the community room, would be occupied by a retail or office type use.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if it was an office use, a dentist's office or something like that, probably not a lot of sales tax coming from that.
All right.
But if it was a coffee shop, and the applicant has indicated to the staff that that's something that they've definitely looked into, and they can speak more to that, what the potential retail uses are. Yeah, it would be a considerable sum. It's, not, like a car dealership or anything like that, but it's
revenue.
It's revenue.
Giving up revenue. Okay, and then also, like you said, we have to do the maintenance. And I have to agree with the Vice Mayor about the credit and at the bottom line, how much we get. So no more questions for now from me.
All right, Ms. Manello.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have questions around the community room and also what was mentioned, that there would be plumbing for the kitchen, but would the project sponsor be building out the kitchen in the community room? I'd like to know if that is
Sure,
a question
we can ask the applicant to address that.
Go ahead.
So, based on the conditions of approval and what we've talked about, the kitchen build-out as well as the AV system and bathrooms are all part of what would be given. And then to address the maintenance question, exterior maintenance, so roof, all of the plumbing for the building, et cetera, would be taken care of by the homeowners association. But items like janitorial service, changing light bulbs, toilet paper, that would be taken care of by whoever does it for all of the community rooms.
Okay, let me open the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, go ahead.
We heard from one party. Can we ask City Toyota if...
Yeah, we're
if
calling
they-
them.
Oh,
So let's open the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
We have two speaker cards. We have Carol Conroy and Dave Muller. Let me ask Carol Conroy first to speak, so Dave, you can go last. Go ahead, Ms. Conroy. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. My name's Carol Conroy, and I'm a 30-year Daly City resident. You're retired postmaster and chamber director, and I currently serve as a trustee of the Gellert Foundation. I'm here this evening to speak in support of the City Venture project that you're considering tonight. To me, this development really makes sense. It adds much-needed housing inventory. It dramatically upgrades the site, and it really adds value to our community. To me, this is the right project. It's in the right place, it's the right size, and it's the right time. And I strongly encourage you to amend the general plan to make way for this project in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Conroy. Dave Muller.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council
Evening.
members. So, do you want me to start?
Yeah.
The first thing I'd like to do is thank everybody and Mayor Manalo when you were mayor and putting together the council committee. And I know, Mayor, you were vice mayor at the time and on the committee, and we attended several probably spirited conversations. And interim center manager was there as well as staff, and people put a lot of time in to come up with possibilities to try and mitigate our concerns of City Toyota. And I think this plan does that. I don't think it does everything we want. I don't think it does everything City Ventures wanted. But you know, we recognize there's a need for housing. I think everybody does. And but also, I think it recognizes our concerns that we're a reasonably unique automobile dealership. We're the third largest in Northern California, sell 5,000 cars a year, and we have a lot of traffic. And this particular property, in my opinion, is very challenging because once the bowling alley became abandoned or what have you, they used to have the access to the PUC parcel that is now the PUC is utilizing. So access to Hill Street and some other, the way traffic used to flow is no longer possible. And so the solutions that have come up with the circulation to D Street, the vacation, hopefully ultimately of B Street, is going to allow us to do some things related, redirecting traffic flow for.
Keep going. Don't worry about it.
We have a car wash right now that currently the blowers and everything face the residents, which City Ventures has stood out there with us, and it just would be a problem. I think we can reverse the direction of it, dramatically change the noise for future residents, and be able to have what would be a big line, you know, blocking streets and being a real problem would be completely solved. And then the way it's currently drawn, there's really no other purpose if you're going to be on that street, would be to be going to City Toyota or coming in and out. So, and then of course the emergency vehicles have access. So, we're here tonight to say we hope you support this project. It's been a challenging project, I think, for everybody. There's been a lot of time in, Michael and Tatum and City Ventures, and I think right now it's probably the best proposal that could be done on this site, and I would just hope you would support it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Thank you.
Unless anybody has any questions for him? No? Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. So let me give you my thoughts on this. So I have been a part of the deliberation and the discussion, having been a member of the committee that has tried to orchestrate some kind of compromise. And we have, I think, exhaustively compromised this out. And I think that both parties, as Dave was saying, they didn't get everything they wanted, but no one ever does. And I think it's time to move this project forward. I do share some of the concerns that were raised by the council members, in particular to the $850,000 credit. I'm struck by the amount, but I think we can also reach a compromise on that. And that's why I'm hoping that the council will suggest some options, some recommendations, some revisions to solve that problem. Going to what the Vice Mayor said about wanting Daly City and getting some kind of benefit, I do share his concern about some of the issues he raised, but I think overall, the benefit we are having is we get to keep Daly City Toyota, we get more housing, and we get, I think, a good team together in terms of neighbors. And I think in the long run, this does benefit Daly City in terms of the revenue Daly City Toyota brings in terms of the housing needs that require, and in terms of the transit-oriented housing that I think we desperately do need. So I'm open to some suggestions, some discussions, some revisions, but I think we need to work this out, and I'd like to see us moving forward with some kind of resolution today. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I do want to just get some information and clarity. In regards to the community room, what is the total amount of occupancy for the square footage?
It's been planned for 150 people.
Okay, so 150 people standing or 150 people seated?
It's, I think the occupant, I don't know that it's standing or seated sort of a thing.
Can we ask the project sponsor?
Sure, they may know. One of the things to think about also is that we've, anticipated that a kitchen would go in and a bathroom would be, installed, and we've got to think of what 1,050 square feet is. We've estimated it's roughly the size of this room that we're actually in, maybe a little larger than that. And if we start putting in things like kitchens and a bathroom, and it's something to think about in terms of just its size too. It's not a huge amount of space, so that's something to consider. And the applicant can also maybe answer your question more fully about seated versus standing.
Sure. So the number that we gave for the 1,050 square feet accommodates 150 seated by code. Our architect, Hunt Hale Jones, is here tonight, and they did that code analysis for us to confirm that it was accurate.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, with a kitchen and bathroom? Minus, minus having a kitchen and then a restroom, you would still be able to seat about 150?
I'm looking at the expert. So,
Why don't you come up so that you don't have to go back in?
Good Good evening.
Evening.
Dan Hale with Huntdale Jones. So the way you calculate is more technical oriented. It's from the building code. You take the total square footage, and you deduct what they provide you for unfixed seating. So it's not fixed. So there are tables and chairs that can be moved around. It's flexible. That gets you to about 150 people. If we provide a bathroom, if we provide a kitchen, we have to deduct that a bit. So it'll be a few less. It's not going to be 50 people, but it might be 140, it might be 130. We don't know what the size of the kitchen is. Is it just a wall kitchen or is it actually a room? So those are the things that need to come out of discussion about what programmatically you would like to see in that space. But it's meant to be a flexible space. Tables and chairs can be used and stored and available for people on multiple different opportunities or occasions, if you so choose.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Giovanni.
And piggyback on the councilwoman here. And what about the parking for the community center? Will it impede the residents? How would that work when people would come if they chose to have the community center?
No, so the parking does not impede. Actually, the houses themselves are, they have dedicated garages, so they're sufficiently parked within themselves. And then we have an additional 42 spaces?
Yes.
It's an additional 42 surface spaces to accommodate the community room.
So just the community room, so it does not even affect the shopkeepers?
The shopkeeper, yeah, so in Daly City,
Parking.
shopkeepers are considered street parking, so by code, but we would allow, I think the way that we plan on structuring it is to have an agreement between all of the property owners to let them use it, so residents could use it during non-business hours, shopkeeper owners could use it as well. It's something that will be done through a parking agreement that city staff review and approve.
Thank you.
The way we've currently contemplated the parking is the 42 spaces that would be constructed in the lot that's parallel to Junipero Serra on the west side of the site would actually be first come, first served to either residents or occupants or users of the community room. There aren't any reserved parking spaces for the community room. But as the applicant indicated, there'd be some sort of a parking management plan that would be put in place based on certain hours that the community room could be used. But a little bit of the issue there is enforcement. What if somebody needs the community room in the middle of the time people are coming home, sort of thing. So it is an issue to think about, the parking. While there is ample parking, so to speak, for the community room, there's really nothing that absolutely guarantees the spaces for the people using it.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, as far as retail spaces, I know that it says about 1,000 square feet for the community. Is there other retail spaces available?
Yes, so there are 5 shopkeeper spaces in the project, and a little more than 2 of them would be occupied by the 1,050 square feet.
So there would still be opportunity to, for instance, have a coffee shop in that location or another amenity that would be suitable and that would be successful in that area? Sure, there are 3 possible locations. The community room, I believe, does occupy the corner space, so I don't know if that's a factor in terms of them trying to tenant that space for like a coffee shop. The applicant could speak more to that. Okay, so for clarification purposes, we're not eliminating all retail spaces in the project?
That's correct.
Okay.
Go ahead.
They can go over to City Toyota's coffee shop and buy a car while they're there if they move in right across. This question is for, I guess, Ms. Mothershead or the city attorney or Ms. Malpe. With this blended rate, will they be subject to the new provisions of the in lieu of fee?
Is this in regard to affordable housing?
Yes.
Yeah, so when they submitted their application and when their affordable housing plan was approved, it was under the previous ordinance, which allowed for a hybrid. And so it was approved under that ordinance. When we worked with the Affordable Housing Committee and drafted the new ordinance, we did provide some protection for approved affordable housing plans. And so they had an approved affordable housing plan prior to the revision of the new ordinance.
I thought that would not take effect unless they have been permitted. It's based upon when they applied for the housing plan.
The way the ordinance was written was that if they had an approved affordable housing plan, that would be honored.
So they're under the old rates.
That's correct.
I'm just trying to find a way to come to a happy medium to get some of those figures down. If I know that the city is going to recoup some of that, maybe even a couple of years or maybe 4 years, but that seems like a big chunk to me to give up at once. I'm all for TOD. You have no problems there. I think we really need this project, and I'm glad, Mr. Moeller of City Toyota, to hear you speak tonight, because I was actually afraid of you at the other council meetings. But and I'm happy. We're working this out together, and I'm very happy, and I think it's good for Daly City. But again, I think we're giving up too much.
Yeah,
and go ahead. So
another point of clarification, though, is the affordable housing plans and all fees that were assigned to projects are only good until February of 2020. So if they do not obtain a building permit by February 2020, they would actually pay the updated fees, which I believe are $40 or $45 per square foot.
That's
but if they do get a building permit prior to that point, then the old fees would apply, which are $1 million.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
For staff,
Thank
the
you.
850 request for credit, when you said you did an assessment on that request, what is your analysis on that?
Well, a broker provided a estimated value of the tenant space and to the applicant, and the applicant provided that to us. The low end of that valuation was $750 and the high end was $950, and I believe that was completed in August. So we just took the middle number, which is $850. I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but essentially we relied on a broker statement.
Okay. Oh, then that's where the figured. Okay.
Yes.
And you guys met at a middle ground, which was 850.
Mm-hmm. Seemed fair.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the cost would be at the lowest end $750,000 in the evaluation, and then the highest would be $950.
Right.
And was there any talks of the lower end of $750,000?
No, we just negotiated right in the middle, to be honest. I mean, that's...
Okay.
I mean, they provided a range of value.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, everyone has been really great, I think, working with City Toyota and then also just coming to a solve. And I'm just looking at, that was the analysis and wondering if the project sponsor would be able to reach that minimum amount or that was stated by the consultant. So that's a question for project sponsor.
Good evening. My name is Phil Kerr. I'm the CEO of City Ventures. I spoke with many of you at the last City Council meeting. I didn't get up tonight to speak because Samantha has done all the work and worked very closely with your staff, which has been tremendous. This has been one of the hardest projects we've ever worked on in terms of the complexity, the amount of moving pieces, the amount of constituencies, and it's been pretty amazing to watch it come together. As Mr. Mueller said, I don't think that anyone got exactly what they wanted, but I think everyone got a good result out of that. So we really appreciate city staff's time for this. Specifically to your question, yeah, we would be willing to look at the lower end of the spectrum on that. We would, all we're simply saying is, the fee is established to pay for a facility. If you pay a fee, it goes to park facilities. If we're going to provide a park facility or a community facility on site, it's just a fair credit for that. And so it'd be a credit at the fair market value of that property. If the fair market value of that on the low end is $750,000, we would be willing to do that. So we're simply asking for a credit for the fair market value. I would be willing to say that would be the lesser of $750,000 or the fair market value of the property, if that was the final piece that sort of brought this all together to move this over the finish line. I think we've all worked very hard for this. I think we do want to see it be something that's super successful. I think the only thing I might ask in return for that would be the opportunity to say if there was better to have a retail piece at the corner, if that was more successful, that maybe we'd be able to look at that with staff, but that the community room would still be the same size. We want to see it be successful. That's the main thing. I think everybody wants to see a room here that's something that becomes part of the community. We want to see this corner be activated, and we want to see it all come together. So I would be willing to look at the or agree to the $750,000, the lesser of $750,000 of the fair market value, whatever that is, with a maximum of $750,000, if that's what got us to the finish line tonight.
Okay, let's move this along. Do you want to make a motion on the 750? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
If I may, just through the chair, we do need to, this is an ordinance and a resolution, so we will, with the amendment, need to have it, city attorney read by title only by motion.
Okay.
Before we go.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just want to say that I know it's $750,000, so I was just trying to figure out, is there ways that in the account so we can recoup that money and other than?
I mean, that's the credit they're applying for,
Right.
so.
And the money just go.
Yeah.
The city council essentially needs to ask itself, is this community space something that is worth $750,000 to it in light of the issues that the city staff's brought up and the needs of other city facilities? One of the things that we go through in terms of developing a general plan, capital improvement plans, is to try and figure out where the needs are, or the Parks Master Plan is a good example of that. And the community room is not identified on those things, and so it's something to think about, given that truth. But if it's something that the city council, of course, thinks is important enough to, again, credit $750,000 on.
I think the council thinks the community room is important enough. It's a matter of the valuation of how much are we all willing to agree. Now that we have gotten it to $750,000, is that something that everyone here is comfortable with? Or do we still need to discuss it further? I mean, the low end, it's the low end, right? So I think we've gotten something, and this is something that we really should, we're almost to the finish line.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see this move forward, and if that's palatable to you folks, then I need to know. But I don't think it should get in the way of this project moving forward. And I think if you want to make additional revisions, or comments, let's do it. But let's make it so that we're progressing and doing something.
So I asked earlier, if I may, Mr. Mayor, around the maintenance of the community room or itself. I mean, we have community rooms, as we mentioned before, that we need to maintain as far as its roofing and plumbing and things like that. And so if looking at down the line, if the project sponsor is stating that they will take care of kind of the essentials, capital improvements of the building in the future, then that's something that I'm looking at considering, because as we do have recreational facilities, they do deteriorate over time. And if we have a commitment, and that's where within this particular 100, a capacity building for the community use in the future, that's something that I see that is not monetized at the moment, but something down the line.
If I ask, yeah, I see where the councilwoman's going. Yeah, because we have so many capital improvements at our other facilities that eventually someone's going to have to give.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Council. Thank you.
So what's your response? Can you relieve some of that burden that they're talking about?
So if I'm understanding correctly, and correct me if I'm not here, I believe what Councilmember Manalo is saying is she'd like to see the project sustain the building. So the roof, the HVAC systems, the power panels, all of the stuff that really feeds into what those big capital expenditures are. And yes, the HOA, we would be able to have the HOA support all of the building envelope, all of that big capital improvement infrastructure. I think the things that we don't anticipate maintaining are things that are, typical to what you guys do on your other community rooms on a janitorial level. So changing light bulbs, toilet paper, that kind of stuff.
So none of the major stuff.
We'll do the major stuff.
Yeah, okay.
That's always been part of the program, that the building shell itself would be maintained by the homeowners association.
Okay.
And if the council decides to go forward with the community room, that should be made a condition of approval, that the applicant, or the HOA rather, and if it's not there already, the HOA shall be responsible for maintaining the structure, the building.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead. Did you have something?
So just to be clear, as I understand it, I mean, the HOA will be responsible primarily for the exterior of the building, but in terms of interior kitchens, bathrooms, janitor's closets, all of that interior improvements, I don't think that that's their intention, is to maintain those. Those would be city responsibility, and we do have a lot of capital projects in regards to interior improvements that we do, and a lot of our existing facilities currently need a lot of those existing improvements within the interior as well. Okay. So just something to consider.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
All right. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And, but I want the rest of council to know that if we're going to treat this building as we do with any of our other buildings that we put out for events, you're going to have an agreement. Those renting the building is going to have to pay a cleaning fee or leave it like they found it. In the event that folks get out there and they say, well, we rented this building, but we have no place to park, folks may stop asking to use the building.
Yeah, parking.
So these are things we don't have control of. I anticipated the mayor asking before Mayor Manalo for a community room for the folks within to have a place to gather. And other folks coming in from the outside would be just something extra, something good to have. But now the onus is going to be on Daly City to maintain and treat that like another piece of property like we do with our other rentals. So it's just something to think about it. At a cost of a minimum of $750,000 and not taking into account other issues that may arise, cost recovery for janitorial service if we need it. You're going to need city staff to maybe go by and stand by while they're having their parties on the inside, just like we do with our other buildings. So it's just something to think about. Am I correct?
Yes.
That's how we're going to treat that.
Correct. Councilmember Sylvester, I mean, what you're talking about is in regards to a public meeting space versus a private meeting space. It's not uncommon. Some of the large developments, they have private meeting space for private use.
Right.
What's before you tonight is a proposed public space, which would be actually city space, and we would be operating and maintaining it.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Any other questions? Go ahead, Ms. Morales.
Yeah, so thank you for the clarification around that. But the other question I had is, but if there was any large plumbing issues, would the project sponsor take care of it? Like the plumbing, not just the exterior?
I guess what I would say is, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's plumbing that affects the entire building, that's probably something that's going to be the responsibility of the HOA. But if there's plumbing that is specifically just for the community room, that's going to be the city's responsibility to take care of.
I mean, we can ask if they are going to take care of it, if they're able to.
You want to follow up and answer the question?
I'll answer just because this gets into some minutia. Anytime we have some commercial, we do commercial spaces, residential, mixed use a lot. You get into, you'll have a joint maintenance agreement between the HOA, which represents the residential, and any of the commercial spaces. This will just be another commercial space. That'll be a commercial space owned by the city of Daly City, as opposed to a commercial space, say, owned by the coffee shop. Similar to the coffee shop, which shares plumbing with the residential coming down in terms of the connections when it comes out of the building and such. There's a shared maintenance agreement between the commercial spaces and the residential HOA that says, hey, there's things, we work to handle this together. If there's a plumbing issue inside the commercial space, there's a toilet that backs up or something that's on the commercial space. If there's a plumbing issue in the main pipes that go out there, there'll be a shared agreement between the two to maintain it. Now, the HOA maintains most of the plumbing throughout the project. And so that gets regularly maintained, the shared plumbing in the streets, et cetera, if there's any issues by the HOA anyhow for all the residences that are there. So it's a level of detail. There will be some little details like that get worked out in an agreement, the same thing we do with all of our commercial spaces. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
One more, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'll make this kind of quick. If we convert this over to private, and I was going to do the calculation, would that increase the price of each home if it becomes a private for the use of those folks who live there? If we make it a private, it's for them.
No. Would it increase the price of the homes that we'd sell them for?
Right. So let's just say the city doesn't want anything to do with it. Give them a community room, and that's going to be part of the complex.
It would be something that would benefit. I don't think it would translate directly into a specific, I don't think there'd be a direct calculation. We've provided a lot of outdoor open space. I mean, there's a lot of community space. I don't think someone's going to buy or not buy in this based off I think coffee shop, that might be a decision that they make or not. But community space we haven't seen as something that'll make or break the project. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Does someone want to make a motion? Anyone? Okay, I will make a motion to, well, first, the council member needs to introduce the motion, right?
Well, we need to make a motion on the conditions of approval.
Yes, there are some, yeah.
So, yes, we need a resolution and we need an ordinance zoning, but if there are changes that need to be made for the general plan, I think we would prefer to have that motion so that it would reflect the changes, and then we would need a motion for the city attorney to read by title only after that motion.
Okay. So the changes, can you state what the changes?
I don't know what the changes are.
Go ahead.
By motion, Vice Mayor.
Well, I don't have enough.
Oh.
So I would like basically an update as to public versus private. What benefits are there for the city, and what benefits there are for the city and for the actual project itself. Does that make sense? But basically, I feel I don't have enough.
Okay.
I don't want the city to take on another liability and manage.
No, but the whole point was we all want a community center. So I don't see the need to engage in a discussion where it's private. Because I thought that the whole intent was to have a public community center. So what's the point in engaging in whether or not we want it private when that was never the intent?
Mr. Mayor, I never referred to it as public or private until I learned tonight the differences between the both. Now, if we're going to say it's going to be public, then I'm willing to entertain and hear the motion based on moving on the fact that it's public.
That's the staff.
That's right. So it sounds like the issues at hand are the amount of credit that the city council would be accepting, the extent to which the maintenance of the building would be the applicant's sole responsibility beyond the tenant shell itself. There should be a condition of approval probably. I think parking is somewhat of a factor, and maybe we should at least explore reserving some parking spaces between prime hours. That would be a good condition of approval, and we can leave it just language like that, an exploration of that with the applicant, so that we don't have to hash that out now.
Yeah.
We added condition of approval under item number 4 that we need to make sure, of course, that it's built, and we just threw out the 40th townhouse unit, that we would receive plans and ascertain at that point that the applicant is actually undertaking it. We have no lack of faith that that's going to happen, but you never know, so we wanted to include that. So those are the types of things that are.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
Would we, or also staff, could we also add a condition of approval on the design of the space of the community room? I mean, it's not within any of that, but
yeah. Well, we have a condition of approval under condition of approval number 5 that already identifies the specific things that the applicant would install, and that includes a kitchen, the mop sink, the bathroom, I think plumbing, or in terms of wiring for AV. So those things are already included in the conditions of approval.
So they would also wire for AV?
Yes, they would wire for AV.
Yeah, and I think typically the recommendation would be for the consultant to, in terms of coming up with the design to include all of these improvements, that we can review those and comment on those as appropriate. One other thing just to keep in mind, I think that was mentioned in terms of the expectation that a city be part of the HOA and enter into some agreement, just something to consider in regards to, if that is the case, then there will be some potential improvements or repairs that would be needed that would not be totally within the city's control. Because if they're tied to some HOA agreement, then there's some stipulation there. Most of our facilities currently are all within the city control in terms of how we go about making those repairs. So just something else to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've included actually in 5C the provision of parking for the facility. So it's something that has been thought of. We just need to, if the council so desires, to entrust that with the city staff and the applicant to try and work that out in a little further detail.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions or modifications or, no? Okay. So, Ms. Zimmerman, how do I?
Do you need to have this ordinance comes first? Okay.
Okay.
So if I may, through the mayor, I can recite, I believe, some of the changes, and then I will request that the mayor entertain a motion for the city attorney to read by title only.
All right, go
And
ahead.
then I will request that we have a motion with these conditions by resolution. My understanding is that the conditions of approval would include several changes. That the credit for the built out of a community room would include the credit of $750,000. That there would be a condition of approval that item number 4 on the recommendation of the community room in the plan development would include the built out of a kitchen, plumbing, and correct me, Michael, if there's anything else.
That's right, it would, yep.
And also that a condition of approval that there would be some sort of maintenance agreement with the homeowners association in regards to the built out of the community room and the maintenance of it as well.
That's right. The exterior shell would be solely HOA, speaking to your point about how there would be some benefit to the city in the long term, not having to maintain the building. We want to make sure that that's memorialized in the condition of approval. Yes.
Right, and part of the condition of approval, I would add that the maintenance agreement be approved by the planning department.
Okay.
With that, I would entertain a motion for the city attorney to read by title only.
So moved. Do I need a second? Second? Do I need a second? All in favor?
Okay. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Daly City, amending the Daly City zoning map, rezoning 3301 Junipero Serra Boulevard to Plan Development Zone PD 72, and establishing plan development standards. I would entertain the council member introduce the ordinance.
I'll introduce the ordinance.
And now a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, can I get a roll call?
Ms. DiGiovanni?
Does this include the 750,000?
Yes, all the conditions I had stated through motion.
Well, in the interest of getting this project moving, I'm voting yes. I still have reservations about the 750,000, but in hopes we can move forward. And so, yes.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Douse McBowell?
Yes.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye. Okay, congratulations, everybody. Good job. Let's get to work. All right, let's go on to item number, what is it, 15, the Housing Trust Spending Plans BMR Ownership Program Guidelines. Ms. Sobel. Go ahead.
Good evening, again, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Before you tonight is a document providing guidelines for the expenditure of the city's Housing Trust Fund. These funds are generated to the city by affordable housing impact and in lieu fees paid by market rate developers, and are intended to subsidize the development and preservation of affordable housing. The manual was originally drafted and reviewed by the Affordable Housing Committee in 2015. In 2017 and 18, the manual was further reviewed and discussed by council members Manalo and Sylvester. The Trust Fund Policy and Procedures Manual is attached to your report and is comprised of sections that describe various aspects of funding, and I'll summarize those. First, the manual talks about funding priorities. It talks about use of the funds for administration. It provides a definition of who eligible developers are, a description of eligible activities, description of eligible home buyers and tenants who might benefit by developments built with these funds. It provides definitions of affordability, including affordable rent and home prices. It talks about loan terms for funds that are lent to developers. It talks about application and underwriting and loan closing processes. And finally, it provides a description of ongoing compliance requirements. In addition to consideration of the Housing Trust Fund Policy and Procedures Manual this evening, staff is also recommending a minor revision to the below market rate ownership implementing guidelines, which the Council adopted in February of 2018. The purpose of these guidelines is to provide information to housing developers and first-time home buyers who might be purchasing BMR units. And the proposed amendment to the guidelines is to add a referenced attachment to the guidelines, specifically the resale and refinancing restriction agreement. This agreement is the document that first-time homebuyers must sign and spells out exactly the terms for future transfers of below-market rate ownership units, including language about allowable transfers to family members. Staff and the committee recommend that addition of this attachment to the adopted guidelines provides clear and transparent information to prospective BMR homebuyers on the responsibilities, restriction, and process of becoming and maintaining an owner of a BMR home in Daly City. The resale restriction that we recommend become incorporated into the BMR program guidelines is attached to your staff report. And with that, I can take any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions?
No questions.
No?
Just a comment.
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to the staff and to my colleague, Council Vice Mayor Sylvester, for all the work that we've been able to do with the staff on this. Oh my gosh, we met there several times over the summer, and what would be a 1 hour meeting would be close to a 2 hour meeting, and so it's really important to see this come to fruition, most especially around the importance of getting more affordable housing in our community.
Mr. Mayor, I have to concur with Councilmember Manalo. And Ms. Obel, thank you so much, because you said the magic words, clear and transparent. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for you and the rest of staff, I wouldn't really have a clue as to how it was going on, but you really made it clear. You answered all of our questions, and as a result, I believe Councilmember Manalo and I came up with a good plan that's going to be good for our city. Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments?
No, just thank you to our council members and staff.
Okay.
Great job.
I make a motion that we approve the guidelines for the Housing Trust Fund and approve the minor amendments to below market rate ownership guidelines.
Second.
Okay. Do I need a roll call? Yes. Roll call, please.
Ms. DiGiovanni?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Douse McBowell?
Yes.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Obel. Next item is the second reading of our minimum wage ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second reading of ordinance number 1425 regarding minimum wage. This became before the council by introduction at the last regularly scheduled meeting, and it's up for adoption. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Would you please clarify, I'm concerned about I see in the, in the ordinance itself, in one particular part where the city clerk gets the certified, I believe it's under the enforcement part. But what materials is she getting for the notification, and what is involved in the rollout, in our current rollout? Are we going to just roll it out and not do the retro pay? Or we're going to do it 30 days after our ordinance?
That's correct.
Please clarify, please.
So
Thank you.
30 days after this ordinance is adopted is when we would do the rollout, when it would be effective. This really would only impact our small businesses because right now we are mirroring the state's mandate. The state does not require businesses for less than 25 to abide by the same sort of law. So that's how our ordinance is different. So we're applying it to our small businesses, those under 25. So they would be notified and it would not impact them until 30 days after the reading.
Okay, for further clarification, when it says enforcement, enforcement by the city at 8.76.050, and then it mentions our chapter 1.12 of our municipal code. When it says enforcement by the city, are we saying, is it going to be our city manager's office, or?
But sort of by proxy, the other cities that have adopted an expedited minimum wage ordinance use an entity in San Jose, a government entity, to do this enforcement. I believe in the original staff report we had the finances around it. It's relatively inexpensive. So the city would get into an agreement with that government agency. That agency would provide us, who's in compliance and who's not, and then the city would take it from there. So we would do the enforcement, but we'd have some help.
Okay, and I know that you guys are diligently doing the notifications as far as possibly putting it on our website, putting it in multiple languages, and not to have a, micromanage, but if you look at the Redwood City site, where it has multiple languages, and the posters and things of that nature, I'm sure you already have that in play.
I will work with my assistant, and I'm happy to take a look at Redwood City, and I appreciate the input.
Okay. And the first rollout, since it is the $12 minimum wage, could we say that with the council and city manager, that perhaps since it's not going to be rolled out for another 30 days, that the first year would probably have a zero compaction in year one?
As it relates, if I'm understanding you correctly, Councilmember DiGiovanni, the economic impact to the city for our workforce, there would be no economic impact.
Okay, thank you.
By expediting it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I appreciate that. Thank you. And let me see. So yeah, the city clerk will be notified, and everything else will be, because they're going to have to be the ones to answer the questions. Obviously, we know that when they, where our city clerk, people will be calling. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
No other questions? Not that, let me look at.
At this, the understanding is that this won't go into effect until 30 days after, and so.
That's correct.
Okay.
30 days.
30 days after. And this would just mean, Rose, administration change only to make this an easier transition, that we don't really have to, it's not going to be a cost impact to us, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Ms. DiGiovanni?
Yes.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Das McBowell?
Yes.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for hanging around.
Because I hear that.
I thought you were going to put a speaker card. All right. Okay, public appearances, oral communications, I have no speaker cards. Let's go down to appointments. Any appointments? Mr. Giovanni?
You're looking over this way. Is it because I'm the first one in the seat?
You're right.
I thought this was supposed to be alphabetical. We can fix that. Yes, I have an opening for Howard Edelman has left our city and moved to Fairfield. So sadly, we have an opening, and so that leaves me taking the former Judith Christensen spot, and I would like to reappoint our long-term commissioner, Rick Crump, to the Planning Commission, with, as we know, has long history in the planning field.
Okay, there's a...
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, he is appointed.
Okay.
Do you have any more?
Not at this time, thank you. Probably the next meeting.
Have any?
Oh, I don't.
Okay,
Mayor.
Dr. Das McBoyle?
Not at this time.
Mr. Sylvester?
None.
All right, I have an appointment because of the ascendancy of Dr. Rod Das Magboal. There's an opening on the Planning Commission, so at this time I would like to elevate, if that's the right word, Gary Pacheco, who is currently on the Personnel Board. I think he's done a great job in the community. He seems to be always out there, and he's always participating and eager to learn, and I think it'd be an excellent candidate, so I make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Hearing none, he is appointed. Okay, that's it for now. Let's go on to reports. Item number 17, which is the council committee reports. Any council committee reports?
Council committee. Yes.
Go ahead.
On the 9th of January, I attended the Mosquito Vector Control District, and that meeting was really not much to provide to council other than manager evaluations. So that's all I have for Mosquito Vector Committee meeting.
Any other council committee reports?
Not committee.
So just to make the announcement, so I had completed the list of committee assignments last week, but I had to revise it given the request of some other members and some of the staff that alerted me to some other committees that needed to be included. So I'm going to finalize the version 2 tonight, and hopefully it will be available for distribution tomorrow. All right, item number 18, which is city council reports. Do we have any city council reports?
Yes, I do.
Yes, go ahead, Doctor.
I just want to say thank you to all the department heads that I met for orientation last week. Tatum, Rose, Shauna, Richard, Mr. Piccolotti, he was here early, Chief. People at North County Fire, they all had very similar themes. Also Joseph Curran about, we had people that worked there 30, 40 years, and one of the main themes was they enjoyed coming to work, and one of the main things was, one was serving the community, number 2 is that they enjoyed the type of, the people that they came to work with. It's like family to them. So I just want to say thank you again for being very informative, being thorough, and it's helping me as an educator myself. It helps in my learning process of getting my understanding of city council and operations of it.
Thank you, Doctor. Did you want to say something too on your orientation?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you. I also had a tour because we're the newly council members, and I see Richard Chu here in our Daly City Police, and you can't say enough about, like, I believe that we went back to back, and we only had an hour, and Richard Chu was here, and there was no time in between. So we really appreciate it. Look forward to maybe we can do more. And Kern and our city manager and Rose and everyone here. We're lucky in Daly City to have such great staff, Betsy and many more. So thank you for that. And I also like to say that Operation Santa Claus, there was a record number of police officers, I believe, this year, the whole SWAT team, their families. We had 2 chiefs there. That would be Chief Pat Hensley and his wife, the other chief. And we had honor the Tucci. I see Mary Ann Mann, who was part of the Operation Santa Claus. Very successful. Our Public Works. Mr. Chu brought his niece, so it was very family oriented. And you see the firefighters with their children and wives as well. Very heartwarming to be able to deliver packages, and obviously very organized, I have to say. So thank you very much, and I was very humbled to be there, and look forward to, as a firefighter's daughter, moving forward with our public servants. So very humbled to be there. Thank you very much, Marion and Operation Santa Claus.
Any other city council reports? Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 10th, the entire council appeared at a town hall meeting with Assembly Member Ting and Mullins. And I was happy to see that not only folks from Daly City, but the folks also with the districts that they covered, to include the west side of San Francisco, were there. And legislative updates as to what's happening in the government. I will say that according to both, the #1 priority for them, and also most likely for the governor, the new governor, is housing. So look for more to come down the line in those areas to make housing more affordable and to build more housing. DMV will need some changes, and they're looking into changing and making technological changes at DMV. And also some questions arose regarding the environment and the use of herbicides. So it was a good update. It was very well attended. Matter of fact, the mayor basically opened it up and introduced both our speakers. So it was very, very informative. On the 11th, Councilmember Manalo and myself, along with interim city manager Ms. Malpe and the city attorney, we attended a meeting at the request of the mayor at the Cow Palace. The Cow Palace, as you know, sits right on, let's see, the eastern side of Daly City. And for so long, we thought it'd be a good idea to meet with the CEO and the president of the board to find out what we can do as Daly City so that we can work together and cooperate with each other for the best interests of not only for Daly City, but also for the Cow Palace. So we opened up a dialogue. It was very, very productive, and just wanted to let the public know that we intend to, in the future, to continue to work with the folks at the Cow Palace, come be as it may, whatever comes up, but we want to work together and collaborate. So that was a very productive meeting. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you so much.
Good job. Any other city council reports? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, on the 6th. Oh, my mic is on. On the 6th, I was able to attend the community swearing in of Speaker Pelosi, and it was great to hear her update around what her plans were in ensuring that we move out of kind of this federal shutdown. But it was in San Francisco, but it was really an opportunity to hear her plans at the helm of Congress.
Who wants to give the update on Panorama School? You?
What?
Panorama?
Why would I?
Mr. Mayor.
Why they already, they
Go ahead.
cut the ribbon on Christmas
Go
Day.
ahead.
Oh, Fred, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So we also, we attended the opening of the Panorama School playground, and we attended it shortly before Christmas, and it was actually set to open on Christmas Day.
It did.
It was a wonderful event. It showed a lot of community working together to build a playground. Kaiser Permanente contributed significantly in terms of their 200 volunteers. And it was just a wonderful model and display of community work to do something for the community. So I want to thank the school and Kaiser for doing that. Okay, with that, we're going to adjourn in memory of several people, unfortunately. So let me start with Glenn Sylvester. Mr. Sylvester, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to elude later on as we go through, but it won't take that long. But the first person I'd like to adjourn in memory of is Mr. Tomasito Burko. I met him in 2006 as a result of an unfortunate accident and, event, and that was the death of his son, a San Francisco police officer in 2006 who died in the line of duty. And what happened afterwards, an organization was formed called the FILEO, which is the Filipino American Law Enforcement Officers, and to which I served as president for a while, and they do lots of trips on a goodwill mission. But I bring that up because this year, matter of fact, I think next week, 2 of Daly City's police officers is also going on that program to provide goodwill to a third world country. And the events that could have, it's unfortunate that his son had to pass in the line of duty and now he's passed. But cherish every moment because you never know how things will turn around in the future on any situation. So thank you, Mr. Tomasito Burko.
And Mr. Mayor, would you add Officer Singh to your list of adjournment?
That's coming.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I figured, thank you.
No, you can go ahead.
Well, that was further down the line. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we'll clear this up right now. Within the past 11 days, 2019 holds a record here in the United States, in that 5 police officers have passed away while performing their jobs in the line of duties. 5 police officers within 11 days, and I actually think it's up to 7. And I don't know what's going on, but you remember the two officers that we spoke of tonight? And I made a statement. You made it. It should not be that way, folks. We should all make it. But yet, the honorable profession, and they put their lives on the line. So Officer Singh was one of these officers who was ambushed. We have an Officer Corona from Davis, who was also ambushed, and that's out of Davis. And then we had another officer who was on her way to work, and she was ambushed. So it's not good, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're out there on the street, we don't ask for any thanks, and the officers don't ask for it because they love doing what they're doing. But if you see them, hello, how you doing today? They probably won't talk to you because they're afraid that something may happen, but they're here to protect us all. So even while we sleep, I'd like to adjourn this meeting also for all our law enforcement officers nationwide who continue to provide the service for all of us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Anyone else? No? All right, let me also ask that we adjourn in memory of Christian Cruz, who was very young. He's the son of Tavu Rodell and the brother of Rian Aningalan Tavu, who's a Daly City resident, very active in the Daly City Spartans basketball team. We also asked to adjourn in memory of Salvacion Fernandez, who is Commissioner Elizabeth Espinda's sister. John Rotman, the husband of Rebecca Delgado Rotman, very active community member and a commissioner in San Francisco. Jeanette Arguello, who is Public Works employee Jose Garcia's mother. Michelle Barroso, who is the Ernesto Barrosos, who works as a collection systems maintenance worker, and that's his sister-in-law. Gilma Dora Correa, who is Jose Correa's mother. Jose is a custodian in Daly City. Gloria Digma, who is also he was Benny Nicado's sister. He's also a custodian in Daly City. Novella Joyce Overby, who is Daly City Police Officer Lauren Herrera's paternal grandmother. Unfortunately, the list was long tonight, but out of respect to them, let's just have a moment of silence. We're adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.